We're back. So sorry about that. We don't know what happened with the connection, but we fixed it now.
We just needed a break. We needed to enjoy this sweet.
We needed to have a little bit of
prepare ourselves.
This
yes.
is afternoon tea at the Savoy. So what we're going to do now, you've seen, for anyone that's just joining us, we did a tour of the Royal Suite here, which is incredible. It is, well, if you haven't seen it, watch the replay, because you've never seen anything like it and probably never will again, unless you are lucky enough to stay here. What we're going to do now is we're going to chat a bit with Bruce. Bruce heads up weddings at the Savoy, and he's also, well, I know, embarrass you, but he's an internationally renowned wedding planner. He is
on a good day
Mr. Luxury, wedding, all things, creative, everything that you want to know. Anyway, what I want to mean to say is, we really want you to feel free to ask us anything, any kind of burning wedding planning questions. Doesn't matter how far-fetched or simple it sounds, just pop it in the comments and we'll get to it at the end. I've got a few pre-submitted ones that I'm going to ask Bruce first. And also, if you think anyone in your network might enjoy this, feel free to share on a page you manage, or in a group you're part of, or just share on your personal profile, because hopefully we'll provide some very useful film that,
let's hope.
that your friends will thank you for sharing it. And also, if you like anything particular we're talking about, press those like buttons so we know what you want to see more of. So let's dig in with the pre-submitted
Perfect.
question.
Let's see if I can answer them.
So Sophie wanted to know, what does London mean to you?
Oh gosh. London, I think, to me means so much, because I moved here. I'm Canadian originally, lived in New York for 3 years and moved to London just over 12 years ago. And I had no idea what to expect when I joined the team here at the Savoy way back when, in my first trip to London. It's so cosmopolitan, but it's so international. Mm. And culturally, I think anything goes. And anybody fits in anywhere.
Yes.
And there are no set rules.
No.
You know, and I think that's true with weddings or with anything, but I think, you know, if you're in the mood for X, you go to that part of London. If you want to go,
no judgment either.
There isn't.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what you wear, it doesn't matter what you know, which music you listen to, what, you know, genre of tea you drink or coffee you drink or cocktail. There is everything for everyone, and I think that's so special about this city.
I think you've put it perfectly, and it's something that I appreciate as well. Very grateful to live in this city. Jennifer wanted to know, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I think there's a plethora of elements that I love about my job, but really it's the privilege to be able to be creative in such a personal way.
Yes. And,
you know, for clients, for a bride and groom or families, to allow you into the most special day of their lives, to really kind of shape, mold, and deliver what they've been dreaming about or what they envision is really the most special part of it.
And you must have had some kind of really far-fetched requests, or, you know, I mean, do you kind of prefer those kind of, I mean, obviously we don't have favourites, but what kind of really gets you going? What really?
It's not, what gets me going is always the question that I don't instantly have an answer to. Because that makes you think. You know, the creative people around will understand what I mean when, you know, when you're allowed the scope, or you're permitted the scope of being able to think and come up with something new, or take an old tried, true, and tested example or element, but make it your own, or make it their own, and make it quite personal.
Well, that's what we're really big into on Smashing Glass, is, you know, we love traditions, we love all the, you know, age-old Jewish traditions, but make it your own, and, you know, give your guests a one-off experience as well. It doesn't have to have anything to do with any other wedding you've been to. You know, be true to yourselves and really bring yourself out, bring your characters out
completely,
in the wedding.
And that's really what I try to encourage, you know, brides and grooms to do.
And it's amazing sort of how much pressure people feel to do things a certain way. You know, hopefully it's changing a little bit now with all the wedding inspiration around, but, You know, that's the kind of a key message.
Well, and I think people get, you know, when you attend a wedding or you've been, oh, I've been to that wedding, they did this, I love that, or I didn't like that. And people are now more, you know, it's an occasion. It is, you know, it's a tradition, but it's also an occasion, and it's your occasion.
And I just must ask you, have you, you know, between weddings you've attended or weddings you've planned, you know, what's the kind of most memorable thing you've seen, or something you think works really well that you think that the viewers could benefit? Anything spring to mind that you just think that just I know it's on the
you know, I think you'll be surprised maybe at the answer, but it's when brides and grooms let go and they're just happy.
Yes.
When they're just happy, because
I love,
you know, because everybody looks to the bride or the groom, or you know, if they realize, oh, is that the wedding planner? You know, just be happy, smile, and everybody will follow through. And that creates the day.
Yes.
You know, if there are nerves or there's anticipation or there's a bit of, then people will start questioning, why are they thinking? Of course, completely.
Yes.
So if you let go, as in, you know, just enjoy yourself, the guests will follow. And that, to me, is, you know, when you look at it from the distance or from the back of the ballroom or across the field or wherever you are, it's the most magical moment for me when you think,
I love that.
It's great.
I love that. So, what else do we want to know? We want to know, I mean, this is...
What do you want to know?
Let me see. People are commenting away, but we'll have a look in a minute. Let me have a look about. I mean, in terms of Jewish weddings, like what do you love most about Jewish weddings? And you know, is there something distinctive about Jewish weddings that you kind of pick up on?
I think for me with Jewish weddings, it's almost one of those. There is so much tradition and so many details. Which is great, because then you know, you don't just follow suit of whether it's church, cocktail, this, that. There are different elements throughout the ceremony, but prelude to the ceremony, afterwards.
And the traditions feed into the party as well.
And they do feed into the party. And it's, I think the one thing, when I first started this business, 7 years ago, I think, and started to get to know the Jewish market, especially here at the Savoy. But you know, from the English traditions was very much, you know, you sit for dinner, and then it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour meal, depending on speeches, and then they go into dancing, and then maybe DJ, and then it ends. Whereas, you know, the first Jewish wedding we put together was, okay, well, no, as soon as we come into the room, we're dancing. And I'm like,
no alcohol
this is
needed.
Amazing. Exactly. They haven't even had a drink yet.
Everyone has to get out and enjoy. And even the non-Jewish guests who have never done it before, they'll, you know, maybe even clap aside or throw themselves into it. Or
and that's kind of what I've been able to then encourage with you know, non-Jewish couples, but also it's, you know, the flow and the entertainment, and just make it immersive and make it interactive so that you can enjoy it, rather than, you know, look at your watch 2 hours later and think, oh, we still have dessert to go through, or, you know, before we can actually go to that bar. It's just making it personal.
And this is a silly question, but what's your favourite Jewish food? Like chicken soup, or is it more Israeli, like falafel, or fish balls? No one likes fish balls.
No, I was going to say no fish balls.
Oh God, and you don't want fish balls served at a wedding. That's a kind of smelly faux pas.
But I think, you know, one of the things that I loved when I first moved to New York many years ago, and I was living in New York, was I was in New York for 3 years, and was sort of the Sunday morning, you know, when few friends, and I remember sort of the locked salmon, you know, bagels with cream cheese. Sunday brunch is probably the best part.
Do you know, I love a good brunch as well. I think it's probably my favourite meal of the day. Kind of great brunch with great friends.
Well, that's what we're finding here as well, is most of the weddings we'll do, the Jewish weddings we'll have, are what they want is then they'll all stay over, family, close friends, and then the next morning they do a whole brunch.
In the suite.
Or one of the smaller private rooms. And it just gets everybody together, and then they can talk about the day and the evening, and
I've even had some weddings that I've blogged where it's a brunch wedding, you know, at a fancy venue even, but they just want to serve brunch.
Oh, completely. We do a number of afternoon tea weddings, and There are no rules.
There are no rules.
Absolutely no rules. There are guidelines.
And also, I get so many questions from people that are having a Jewish wedding, where one half of the partnership is Jewish, and they're actually. I've never find those kind of weddings problematic. The couples sometimes feel overwhelmed, or that there isn't a rule book. But I think that's the whole beauty, that there isn't a rule book for Jewish weddings. You know, you can literally make up the rules.
Well, and I think it's looking at the guidelines and looking at, you know, the traditions that are important to you, that are important to your mother, your father, your parents, and trying to honor that as well.
Oh, yes.
But remembering that that is one element of the day and of the celebration, you know, and that you can intertwine it, intermingle it with the other elements as well that you want to bring in.
Absolutely. So my final pre-submitted question was someone, Mark asked, what do you get asked the most?
Well, I think the question, as if somebody discovers I'm a wedding planner, the first question is, you know, have you ever dealt with any bridezillas?
Oh no, I hate that term.
You know, and I hate that term as well. And I always say no, because my job is to
take the bridezilla out of the
bride.
I mean,
well, take that element, and it's you know, it's one of the things that I always say as well. Imagine, put yourself in the shoes of the one person onto whom all eyes are on, leading up to the day, and you get asked every question from the family, from everyone, from your friends. What are you wearing? Where's it going to be? You know, before you've even announced the date.
Even worse, it's like, you should do this, you mustn't
do that.
do that. About having that kind of wedding.
Imagine having that pressure and always having to think. I mean, I know that, you know, when we're in the logistics mode of putting together a wedding or 3 weddings or whatever it might be in the course of the coming months, it's you have all this information in your head and you just need to process it. And if you're not used to processing that way, then, you know, you get overwhelmed and you're like, I give up, I don't want to get married, you know, it's that, depending on the type of personality you are. And, you know, I think I consider it my job to be able to manage that and manage, you know, feed people or couples bite-sized pieces of information. You don't need to decide on these 300 things today. We've got the next few months, so we'll decide on them a few a week, or we'll manage that. And in the meantime, I'll manage mother on this side, and I'll manage father who's paying on that side. And so this way, none of them shall meet or become two. On a good day, it works. I
think the kind of media in Hollywood have got a lot to do this kind of bridezilla thing. I mean, I really think times are changing. Also, we get a lot more in terms of my readers, like older couples getting married, or you know, brides getting married well into their 30s, 40s, and really knowing what they want, and often they're sometimes funding the wedding, and it's just a bit more laid back. You know, often, I mean, ages you can get the same with a younger bride, but
it's a bit more structured, and it's a bit more, you have more direction, I think, and it makes the process slightly easier.
Well, let's see if this is going to work. I've stolen Bruce's phone to see if we can look at the questions coming in. Otherwise, I'll pick up my phone, which is streaming, and see what you guys have been saying. Oh. Bruce just got a phone call from one of his brides.
That was funny.
She may be watching.
I could have answered.
To ask the question.
Maybe I should have answered and just seen what was coming.
No, not coming up on there. Let's see what's going on here. I will. It's okay. We can do it like this. So Pam Komorowski. As a planner, do you try to make sure the couple have some very special times together after the ceremony instead of them trying to be there for every guest? Do you think this is important to remember to do?
Most definitely, and this is something that I usually encourage if you're having, you know, couple photos after the ceremony before the cocktail reception. I think today people don't want to miss the cocktail, but more and more now I find that couples are opting to skip the cocktail reception and do sort of a much more structured entrance into dinner. And again, I think the wedding really depends on the format of the wedding, and the flow depends on what that allows you. But it's definitely important to have that sort of one-on-one time, and it allows you sort of the chance to reflect on a very important occasion and celebration, which is the two of you and the love you share, and
also one of the beautiful Jewish wedding traditions, which I must admit myself, wasn't aware of till my wedding day when the rabbi told me to do it, so I don't know if all of you are aware, this is straight after the ceremony. There's actually a Jewish wedding tradition called Yichud, where the bride and groom have their alone time for a few minutes, 10 minutes, whatever feels right. In the olden days, this was because they consummated their marriage at that moment. Nowadays, not quite, but no no photographers are allowed in, no cameramen. It has to be just the two of them, and that's a beautiful tradition and something that every couple should do. But Definitely. It's an actually written as part of the Jewish wedding ceremony. So let's grab the phone again and see. Sarah Hannam. Hi Bruce, what's your ultimate ideal wedding or event you'd like to plan?
Oh gosh.
People like that question, they like flying around.
Again, something where you've got sort of creative autonomy to be able to create something completely magical and new. I often get asked, what would be the perfect venue, or where would you like to do something? And part of my, and I think I've worked in the hospitality industry for most of my life, over the course of 15 years at some of the most amazing hotels around the world, and have been able and fortunate enough to travel quite a bit throughout my career. And I think, for me, in my head, it's still to plan a wedding at Versailles would be kind of the most, and I get goosebumps when I say it, but I think it's because it just lends itself to that opulence, and it's almost, I think it's the other thing I love about London is sort of the pomp and ceremony of whenever we have a royal event, the British do it amazingly well.
I think better than anyone in the world.
Yes, definitely. I can say that because I share dual citizenship. But I think for me, Versailles sort of epitomizes that level of elegance and grandeur and opulence. And that would just to do something, absolutely spectacular would be amazing.
Well, if anyone's looking to get married in Versailles,
let me know.
Available. There's one wedding on the blog of a good friend of mine. It was blogged some years ago, a New Yorker, and that was her dream to get married. She had a good budget. She had a good budget to get married in Versailles. But they even went to Versailles to visit, but it didn't work out. She ended up getting married in a Palm Beach, but a Versailles-themed wedding in Palm Beach.
Well, that's it. You can
Mar-a-Lago or something like that.
Beautiful.
I'm not sure, but yeah, it's on people's minds. Let's see what else. Pam said on my bucket list to visit.
Good, we can go together.
Simon Hayward. What do you look for in a photo booth supplier? We, our photo booth one, are dedicated to making memories. That is, in our opinion, what you're right. A little.
Definitely. I mean, you know what? Photo booths, since they're
becoming more and more popular. Or?
Again, they're still quite popular. I think people love the notion of having, letting people go a little bit crazy, and there's so many options
making your
now.
Own memories on the
exactly. I think, but they've gone from the traditional step into this space where you have your passport photo done or your driving license photo done with little props, whereas now it's sort of an experience and it's part of the setting and the background, or it's very discreet and you've got the camera that's part of a mirror that sort of looks. So I think there's not a simple answer to that. My answer to any supplier, from photo booths to photography to ballerinas to balloon makers, is just sort of be good at what you do it well, and make my job or the bride's job, if they're not hiring a wedding planner, just make it easy. And just it's about being professional, communication, understanding the limitations, and managing. What we do every day is manage expectations, so to ensure that you don't get there and then there's an issue. We deal with the issues before they even become a thought.
Just on lovely photo booth ideas, I went to a friend's 50th, Jez San, I don't know if he's watching or whatever, and it was lovely. As you arrived, you kind of put your put your coat in the cloakroom, and there was a kind of a photo booth, not an actual photo, like a cameraman, and all the props were related to things the guys like. So he's a computer geek, so it was like you know, a book, Computers for Dummies. He loves Spotted Dalmatians, so there was like a hat with that. You know, all the props were to do with
were quite personal.
Were personal to him, so it was like kind of using props that were connected to him, and I thought it was lovely, and again gave an insight into his likes and dislikes, and as creative as you like.
And it's I think it's also the great alternative to a guest book, because oftentimes people forget to just sign things. But if you have a photo that you put in and people take something away, it's just a little memento, and they'll put it on a board at home or on the desk, or
those photo booth guest books, you just take the picture, put it in, and put a little message there. And then. There's lots of options. What else have we got? Emmylou Kelly, what was your most memorable moment as a planner at a wedding?
Gosh.
Good or bad, shall we say? Well, Sean upstairs was telling us about. Sean is the fantastic head butler of the Savoy, which was another Facebook Live we did earlier. You have to watch it if you missed it. Complete legend. Wow. He told us one of his 4 hours before the wedding was supposed to start, coffee was spilled all over the wedding dress. If you want to find out what happened with that one,
should not laugh.
Watch the replay. But good or bad, memorable moment.
Good or bad? I mean, memorable. Oh gosh. There are too many.
Well, I liked what you said earlier about those simple smiles.
Definitely. I mean, the good one is probably that moment at every wedding, at the end, towards the end of the evening, or once the formalities are done. And I say this all the time, you know, I sort of stand back and just observe, and you can sort of say, amazing wedding.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
all that work coming together.
There were, and then probably the worst memorable.
I think people want to probably hear like some secret story.
A little bit of the drama.
Without mentioning any names.
I won't mention names and I won't mention venues, but there was an occasion where we were about 10 minutes away from having to relocate an entire wedding because the venue had no power. So it was either relocate to another venue.
How come you've still got hair and it's not all white?
And it is my own still, but it is going white very quickly. It was either relocate to another venue, or we were looking at options of actually just having a generator to power the ballroom and the band. We were going to cook the menu at another hotel around the corner. Exactly. And, you know, or the thing, and people were like, well, how are you going to let guests know that they have to go to another venue? I said, well, we have transportation arranged from the ceremony venue, and they're coming back here. So rather than come back here, we'll just take them to another venue. It all worked out in the end.
God almighty.
But it's, you know, that is the one moment probably.
That's when you need a wedding planner.
That's the one moment in my career where I would say that I, you know, as soon as you're presented with that scenario, you think, I haven't planned for this. In my head, you know, you just have it planned, and you know things are happening, and people are setting up in the dark, and you're thinking, how do we do this? But
gosh, well, that's been and gone, never to return.
You get through it.
Like let's just
with
quickly
good people.
See if there's anything else. Brunch is the best sleep in, extra food. Best hotel I've ever been to ever. I think they're talking about the Savoy. Just been looking at an interview with your butler, Sean. His passion for perfection was delightful. So pleased to have found this interview too. Thank you, Pam. That's lovely. Charlotte Dodge, she's a fabulous wedding planner. What's she saying? Question from a fellow wedding planner. There you go. Over the years, what have you found to be the main reasons people use an independent planner?
That's a very good question, because I think sometimes there's still kind of misconceptions within the industry, or I think it's an education on behalf, you know, that we need to do a little bit more to general public is, you know, the reason normally becomes, and I stress this all the time, is that we become the one person that actually looks after everything, or we connect all the dots, if that makes sense. And it's one of those things that you have the reassurance. And I always say whenever I meet clients for the first time, it's about this.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you can look at portfolios, you can look at images and videos of what I've done, but I've never done your wedding. We've never done your wedding, and it's never been done, and that's what we're going to create. So the importance is that we have the confidence and the trust in each other.
So it can
I have to
be
trust that
yeah.
I can produce what you're thinking and what you want to achieve for you, your guests, and everybody involved, and for that day. And you have to trust that I will be able to do that. So, to have a person who is, borderline personal connection rather, and still it's a business connection, because this is work and this is a business that we're, with weddings.
It's blurry though, isn't it?
Well, I always say weddings are the time where a couple are making the biggest business decisions financially with their emotions.
Gosh,
and
that's
to
a great
be able
way
to
put it.
manage
I like
that
yeah.
is not an easy thing to do, because you want to say yes to everything, and you want to, and yet you have to be realistic and manage that. And exactly.
Being realistic.
Because as much as couples may say, oh, we don't have a budget, and you think they're going to spend $500,000, $1 million. Within that $500,000, $1 million, they've still got a budget, and there is still an important notion of, well, that's too much for flowers, or that's too much for that invitation, or why am I paying for this?
It's like buying property, how much you have, you just see the ones that are a little bit more,
yeah.
you think, you can...
It's an education process, but I think certainly for that question, from the independent planner perspective, I think they get that personal relationship, but from a business standpoint, which sometimes can still be achieved by using, whether it's a party planning company or an event planning company. But in my experience, when working with my couples, it becomes, you're more than planning their wedding. You're sorting out their spa reservations, or you're finding the best manicurist in London, or the person who can do the best hydrofacial, or you're sorting that specific pair of shoes that Manolo Blahnik did 3 seasons ago, but yet we need to find.
Yeah.
So it's not just about planning the party, it's about every single detail that's involved. Absolutely. And whether that's, organizing a hair appointment for the aunt who's coming in from Croatia, wherever. It's every element that ties into that day or their lives from the time that you're involved.
How do you feel after the wedding's over?
It's a low. You do
and suddenly someone that you're in touch with so frequently.
Yeah,
but they turn into friends, I'm sure.
Well, some do.
Yes.
Some do, and it's you've always got the stories, and it's quite, you're never quite out of their lives, I think, sometimes, because it is a very personal. Sometimes you won't hear from them for years, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we were looking at our photo album and thought of you and just wanted to say hello, or I get the message from a specific groom every birthday or something. You've been part of a very significant and very personal part of their lives. So,
a few more. I don't know how we're doing for time.
Sorry, I've rambled on that one.
That's okay. Gosh, there's so many. I don't know how we're going to fit them all in. Let's see. Have you met a lot of bridezillas? Oh, you obviously missed the earlier question, Sharon. But again,
well, no, but there was. I've had one. There was a moment, but then there's a story behind it. So there was a moment years ago where a bride, it was different elements. It was cultural, and it was cultural, yes. And there was pressure from both sides of the family, and the couple were paying for it themselves, and they really wanted to do their version of culture, and there'd been a death in the family a few weeks before, so there was a lot of emotion on this bride. And she walked in, and the first thing, I'm like, oh my God, you look amazing, you look beautiful, and she truly did. And she was like, I just want this day to be over. And it wasn't. You never want to hear that, because, and she didn't mean them in that way. She wanted the formality over. And that I understood. So we made the process as seamless as possible, and just ensured that at every moment she was able to get time to herself, or they could get time together to be able to actually process everything that was happening. Because I think there had been so much in the lead up to the wedding that they just wanted to. They didn't want it to be over, but they just wanted to be able to enjoy their time and not deal with the formalities, because the formalities involved thinking of the deceased person and thinking of that and
it's amazing how many different things come into your job.
Completely,
it's not
completely.
Planning pretty party. There's
no.
so many strands. I think we'll do one more question, and then what we'll do is Bruce or I can always come and answer questions afterwards, in the comments or whatever. Kieran O'Toole said, Cleo says, he is great. I stayed there 3 weeks ago. All the staff are amazing. That's nice.
Yes, yeah. If there's one thing I would say about the Savoy is, and I worked here in a previous life, with any building and with any venue, it's the staff, and the staff here are,
and that's what differentiates
completely, because
with any business,
you can have 5 stars and you can serve the food, and that can come from everywhere, and you can have these beautiful surroundings, but it's the people around that help, that make the experience.
I think so, and like I say, in any business nowadays, there's so much competition. I think service is
people by people.
Yes. So we'll do one last question. From Kieran, actually. Is your job stressful trying to make everyone happy on one of the biggest days of their life? So you're kind of a virtual stress reliever.
It's, well, I think, what is it? I'm sure everybody's read this because it's been posted everywhere. I think an event planner has like the 3rd highest stressed job in the world, really.
What?
It's like in the top 5 of the most stressful jobs in the world.
I bet. When you think about it. But,
so it is stressful, and I think it's how you manage that stress, because, and I mean, anybody who's close to me will tell you that as much as your clients put pressure on you, I probably put as much, if not more, pressure on myself because of me, because of the personality, because of who I am, and because of the way, whether I'm preparing dinner for friends at home, or family, or doing things for a client. It's about just ensuring that I'm happy with it, and that's a lot of pressure. And I think it's trying to balance that. And sometimes I get the balance right, and sometimes I don't get the balance right. But it's about managing it in a way that works for you, really. Because, and I think I strive on that, and stress keeps me going and keeps me on my toes and keeps me focused. But you do need cut that and then focus on me time for a bit.
And I suppose you can never let it show either. You're trying to think.
I think that's the difference. It's you
that calming
can't
influence.
you can't express it, and
no.
Or you do behind closed doors or after a few drinks with very close people. But it is something that that can certainly get to you, and I think and you then understand why brides and grooms and family can get so emotional and stressed, because it is about them. Whereas at the end of the day, none of it's about me. So the personal element from my side is not involved. So you can imagine if it was. Yeah,
well, you've got a great attitude towards it. So it's been such a pleasure hanging out with Bruce here and hanging out with all of you. So I don't know if anyone new is just coming in, but what I want to just close with is that I'm lucky enough to be staying at the Savoy for 24 hours. It's the 24-hour project, STG, #STG does the Savoy, all over social media. And I'm just being pampered and exploring and looking at the event spaces, having lovely dinners, cocktails, the whole thing. Now, there's bits and pieces on social media, but everything will be on the blog next week, sort of documenting my time here. And you lucky listeners or readers or viewers or whatever we're supposed to call these days, have one lucky couple are going to get the chance to stay for the Savoy and one night and experience the Savoy experience. We've got a fabulous competition attached to all
Maybe
this.
not in the suite though. I'm not sure if that's the agreement. Well, you might. Well, we might have to twist a few arms.
So keep an eye on the blog next week. There's so much more that we're experiencing here that's not coming on social. So it's all going to be on the blog next week. Wednesday the 15th of February, the day after Valentine's. If you're going to bit of a downer after Valentine's, we'll lift you up on Wednesday the 15th with everything that's happened here behind the scenes in our 24 hours. So goodbye, everybody.
Thank you
And
for tuning in.
yeah, we'll still be kind of hanging over on Instagram a bit and doing a bit more Facebook. So keep an eye on that hashtag if you want to see what we get up to. So bye, everyone. And
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.